Okay, I'm recording, but go ahead and keep talking. We're talking about radio. Let me see. It's a little dark. I'm just going to use the audio.
What he reiterated and he agreed with is that in this day and age, you have almost no latitude. If you're playing a certain style of music, you have to stick to that. He goes, our station is trying to broaden that and be more inclusive. We're going back, archiving old recordings that are great recordings.
Yeah, that's what I try to do.
I told him, I said, well, FM
Did I sit
107,
right here?
yeah, sure, FM 107.7 in Manitou, that's where they live. I said, so much great music has been recorded, and this keeps people alive, and it keeps our tradition going. We have access to things we loved, but we can no longer hear. And
So you were saying that while you're working at
yeah,
your other station.
I don't work there. I'm volunteer. I told
Okay,
him all about it.
and that's KCME, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this Steve here, he works for KCME, and so he was telling me about a story about a guy that a donor. You tell it better. A guy that made a donation.
One of the hosts and both one of the donors just expressed great gratitude for the old music that is hard to come by, that oftentimes is not played because of formats and just limits on the station. And it's a great outlet for hearing things that are there, that exist, that have been great contributions to American music that so many of us know and love. And here we have this resource in our community, and it like brings us comfort. And in an age where there's a lot of
was he
anxiety.
talking about the KCME, the jazz side, or is he talking about KFUI, or both? Or?
Both.
Both? Okay.
Both. Yeah, we discussed both. It started with the KCME. He was a classical listener, but
Yeah.
the person that made the jazz donation, because I did both sides of their
right.
operation, and I mentioned how 107.7, that is how they operate. Period. You will hear a broad range of musical works that are there, and they've been brought back.
So what did he say after you mentioned that?
They express nothing but gratitude.
Wow.
Gratitude. These are senior people who
old people.
Yes.
Like you and me.
Old people. Yes.
So
Yeah.
we're
On
doing
life
each thing
support.
So you've been playing guitar for 66 years, okay, but that's
pretty
okay.
close. Yeah, that's
a little
pretty,
behind you here.
Yeah, that's about right. So us dinosaurs live to fight another day, and we have a great tradition in American music.
And this is Cheeto.
And the dog enjoys it also. So we have a lot to be proud of, and we have an opportunity to also invite new talent in. It's a stage for new people to express themselves, and you have community support. It's an opportunity to expose your creativity and have it celebrated and enjoyed by the mass
I have to
people.
interject and do a color, what do you call it, a station identification. This is Ray the Birdman, 107.7 KFUI Radio, Manitou Springs, also Part 15, 104.7 Peyton, Colorado, AM 1610 in a few spots, and as well as global. And I'm doing this in the middle of this random recording in case this runs into the hour, the top of the hour, so I am within the realms of what the FCC requires for, the time, the call letters, and all that blah, blah, blah. And this is Steve Serrato. And so we're doing this on a whim. We're recording it in the dark, so I'm just going to use the audio. I got to make sure this thing's, that the number's moving. So I'm using my smartphone, so I'm going to move this over. No, I won't touch it because, so we're both sitting back here because if I get too close to the mic, and Steve has been playing guitar for many years. My board controller is up here in this area, and it's my antenna's near the 102.1 FM, and they're out of Denver, and they say 102.3, but they don't have the same local music that we have. And just a little short note, as Steve was talking about the jazz music, KCME has a new jazz station. So they have the classical side, but then what's the frequency of the new one?
It's 93.5 FM.
93.5. Okay. Now the problem is that people in Manitou Springs cannot receive 93.5 5, right?
Only in their car radio.
In the car radio. Okay, but it's really hard to get here. So what KFUI is doing is trying to mix in more jazz, and then Steve will have a new song he just recorded, but he's going to get me a copy and I'll put it on the board, and then sometimes they'll give me permission to put it on the FM side or both FM and the global, depending on which is copyrighted. But you know, a lot of stuff I do has a copyleft. That's a real term. Software, open source, copyleft. Okay, sorry. So, did you want to explain something? You want to share more about how you've already told me, but I figured we'd tell the audience if,
Well,
like, you grew up near New York. I mean, you played with these like top musicians, and then you became one.
well, it's living a life, and it's taking risks and staying with it. If you got a passion with it, you stay with it, and it helps people as you get older. You could see the need to share this stuff and to encourage other artists.
Yes.
FM 107.7 is a great platform to introduce new artists, and that should be encouraging for anybody out there that is striving, that is creating. There isn't a lot of opportunity like this.
Oh, I need to interject because a lot of stations you have to pay roughly $55,000 to put your song on the radio. It's called pay to play. That is still in existence. Now, KFUI, we bypass all that. The musicians here will give me music and say, hey, can you play this on the radio? Then they'll be across town, or they'll be at the subway, or they'll be at the Manitou pool, or they'll be, doing their jobs, making deliveries around town. Then they get to hear themselves on the radio for the first time. And to me, that makes it so worthwhile. So what is it, $17,200 I spend to build the station within the span of 6 years. To me, that's worth it. I mean, to have this dream come true. But Steve helped me put this together.
And
Really, you
Ray
have.
Ray has allowed me to hear myself after a suite of Bob Dylan on one night and a suite of Patsy Cline on the next
Oh,
night.
yeah.
And I almost bumped into Donald Fagen and Steely Dan. It doesn't get better than that.
Oh, man.
And it has nothing to do with my talent. It has to do with our life goes on, our creative lives go on, and everybody can participate, listening, playing, otherwise. And we need this. We need this in an age where it can be high anxiety. There could be so many distractions and letdowns. But music gives us hope. It brings us back to a place where we're younger.
Yeah, keep
and
sharing your
hopeful.
stuff. I'm going to have a smoke while I keep talking because this is about you so that people can get to know you a little bit more. And I'll come in and you could ask me
I could
questions.
thank this station for allowing me a format to have a voice, to share what I've created with you. And I'm playing 65 years, and I just feel like I'm just beginning to grow. Did play with the Air Force Academy Falconeers many years ago. It was a tremendous experience, and different paths opened up in life. But this is celebrating our musical tradition in pop music and radio music, and radio is alive and well, and it's an incredible um, platform, pulpit to connect. It's about the American soul, regardless of the style. We have such a wealth and history of talent in America that the more you're exposed to the styles, and more often the things that were never great hits, but the body of work left behind by those who are no longer with us is absolutely epic. So we live in an incredible time and culture, and I feel privileged to have been able to do this, make whatever small contribution, and we encourage you to tune in any chance you get. You will get surprises, and in a time where um, transmission of radio doesn't allow the hosts too much latitude for surprise. Playlists are played over and over until we're almost drugged from hearing the same thing.
Oh, that I got to add more. I forgot to tell you. I got to interject. I bumped into my big boss out front with his dog Jackson, David Gonzalez, and Petey, and he knows you. He's walking his dogs down there, so he
Well,
said,
David.
"Yeah, David, yeah,
David's great.
yeah, oh yeah, he's a good guy to work for." So when I'm not working for him that much, he refers me out, and that's how I can, make money and put this thing together. And then if a transmitter goes out or I need to rebuild an antenna, I make enough, barely enough, but enough to get by.
And this is a jewel. This is a diamond in the rough. If you're listening out there in Manitou, or if we're transmitting beyond that, it's a diamond in the rough. It's a day and age where this kind of latitude and freedom and reminder of our who we are as a musical culture. And it's not just America. Great British music from the '60s, the British wave.
Well,
All
we play that
styles.
too. I mean, that's but it's mostly local music. But I have to have the regular rock and roll. I actually interacted with Bon Jovi. He sent me a new song, and I told him John Bon Jovi, and I said, okay, well, I got two local musicians in front of me. I got to get their stuff first, and I'll get yours on there in a few days after. He's like, okay.
Wow.
Very, and then Alice Cooper's another guy. So these are big names, but these people, these are the people that I send our local music to.
Wow.
To John Bon Jovi, and then okay, here's the other thing, is I have a friend named Alyssa Ruffins. She's a rock and roll singer. She plays in a couple cover bands, but she has some new originals recorded. And I had this crazy idea, really crazy. Okay, and she was funny. She jumped up and gave me kisses when I first came in. And so basically, I had this crazy idea of thinking that maybe, ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to broadcast music to the astronauts.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, a fantasy, right? So, okay, I'm this little kid. Okay, the Apollo 11 didn't even get on the moon yet. And I'm thinking, I want to send music to the astronauts. And a couple years later, I built this transmitter, right? That only went a couple hundred feet. And this girl I fell in love with listened to it. It didn't come in very good, but her and her husband listened to the KFUI and the Global Link. So anyway, I had this crazy idea. Alyssa Ruffins has a couple new songs, and I had trouble trying to close on a house that is no longer in existence. So basically, I got a hold of Alyssa's husband that works in the Air Force, and I asked him, did he ever work with space flights? And he said, yes, he did. He was not in charge of the comms or the communications, but he worked with some of the space flights of what NASA does. And I said, okay, great. I'm going to send the link to the International Space Station on their Twitter account. And when Alyssa has the song, when I put it on the radio, I'll send it up there. And he goes, great. So I did a small write-up on Facebook about Alyssa Ruffins writing a song and her husband being involved in space flights.
Yeah.
And now the astronauts have the link.
Wow.
So it's a reality. So here we are in 2021. I've got stage 3, stage 4 Parkinson's. Some days I can walk pretty good, and other days I cannot. My body was already weak from the cancer, previous cancer. And then I got a little splash of autism. It's like adding a splash of garlic to a meal. But anyway, so I just make do, and I try to give people hope. I'm still interjecting, but my latest thing is to get access to the IBM quantum computer and IBM page for my education. Just within the past week, a real expensive college class to learn quantum computing. I have no idea what I'm doing, but hey, they paid for my education, and I'm about a third of the way done reading the textbook. I think that was about $95. I got that from them as well. What a challenge! So meanwhile, I do the radio as the happy part of my job. The part that I enjoy, mixing music, making it sound good, being a software developer on app for Apple. And then the way I get paid is building quality Apple machines that sound good for many recording studios in this area. So I'll give it to you, I guess. How do they do that in sports? It's like, after you, Bob. How do they do that? I can't.
Well,
geez, I'm like, I could never talk on the radio. I'm like, or a sportscaster. Forget it, man.
This is a side note. If this
Take
is,
it away.
If this is being videoed, you've got a video of my dog trying to destroy the couch.
That's fine. No, she's in the background. We're doing the audio. You might hear it a little bit. But,
I don't know what this has to do with music, but she's enjoying every second of it.
Yeah, she's happy. I've never seen her that happy.
Have some foam.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's in a digging mode. She's dug about 100 holes in the last week.
Oh,
So
jeez.
springtime. But that yeah, I would just encourage anybody who has access to FM radio, listen to 107.7. It's been an education for me, and it's brought me back to reliving moments of joy, moments of my life that I would never have been able to access without it. And
No, thank you.
once again, I tip my hat, tribute to the great artists that have contributed to this all.
Oh yeah, there's so many of us. There's so many of you guys here. I mean, I just put it onto a board. I make it sound good, and then I got the preemphasis, and then my Rafus DBX noise reduction that makes it come out filtered nice, but not too bad, too filtered. Oh, there, she's got a ball. Get the ball. Yeah, it was impromptu. That you gotta have dogs.
She's
Gotta
a
have
ham.
cats.
She's a ham.
There we
So,
go.
yeah, that's as much as I can say.
Okay.
It's a wonderful thing. We're blessed to have this station transmitting, and hopefully it'll continue, and hopefully it will grow, and we have a lot to celebrate, and
I've been on there for 5.5 years, 107.7 FM, and then global. And then I have a new global server. The old one I had I had a service that um, it's a stream, and I had that free service. But then they had issues trying to get their server going, their server within the host in California. And then so I went to this other place, and I've already had an account with them. I just didn't know how to put the right code into the Auto DJ board. And then it had showed an example. It's called Mix Auto DJ. It's free. And if you were to use like Max Broadcaster, that's $1,200 per computer. That's just for the software. And if the computer dies, then you got to pay $1,200 again. So it's Max Broadcaster. They have different ones, but I use the Mix Auto DJ, and you add the global host address, and then it goes through on the global. And there's people from Germany and Australia that listen to that. Oh, okay, she's gonna do the ball. Where'd it go?
sorry, I have to.
So this is Cheeto the dog.
We have
We like to include everybody in these interviews, and so we're running about 18 minutes, but this is good.
Cheeto is the station manager.
Yeah, no. Oh, I gotta tell you, my cat is the station owner, or he's the manager, and I'm the program director, and he promoted me to assistant program director. So my cat is one of the owners, and he is a registered developer. His name is Loki, and he's part of the Loki project. And believe it or not, my cat Loki has access to the quantum computer that's worth billions of dollars that IBM has. Oh, here's a question. Do you know who saved IBM when IBM went belly up years ago? A bunch of Apple hippies. A bunch of Apple hippies from this area, from the Matthew Springs area, Colorado Springs area. And there's PBS had a three-part series called Triumph of the Nerds. They had Triumph of the Nerds Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. In the middle of Part 2, it talks about how IBM was going belly up because they were they were doing too many products or something. So a bunch of Apple hippies came and added some language into their boards and made it more economical for them to make lower cost laptops and computers. And the thing about IBM is you had to have a dress code. You had to wear a shirt and tie and a suit. But these Apple hippies, long hair, headbands, T-shirts, tie-dye T-shirts. They walk into IBM and they said, the one guy jokes and says, "Are you ready for the dress code for work?" And they just walked in. IBM could not say anything because they were saving IBM.
Yeah.
These are people from this area because all the Apple laptop computers were produced in security, and most of the people that worked there lived in this area.
Wow.
And that was in late 90s into, well, I know. Yeah, late 90s. I can't remember. They were there for a good 10 years. All the laptops, the white ones were made there. So I have this old white laptop that's real slow. It turns on and laughs at me because, I can't really do much with it. But it was made in Security, Colorado. So it says Colorado Springs South. That's what the address is. So Apple is, we're Apple people. The other thing is, side note, is that Microsoft is hiring 7,000 people. Now, sometimes I'll say kind of off the wall things about Microsoft, but they are a good company. You don't get a free lunch, or you don't get free breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When you work at Microsoft, you buy your lunch because most of the people that work there are family. They're like a family man. They come in, they've already eaten breakfast with their family. They buy their lunch and they go home at a certain time. And that we're talking about the Microsoft in Denver. They're huge. They've expanded. Okay, then Facebook is hiring 451 people, and they've expanded. Okay, so then we can talk about Google. Google, if you work for them, you can get free breakfast, lunch, or dinner because the people at Google will come in at different times and leave at different times. And so when they feed them breakfast, lunch, or dinner, most of those people are single. They don't have like a wife and kids to go home to, like most of the Microsoft workers. So young people at Google will show up. Some will show up at 6 a.m. Some will show up at 7:30, and you get something to eat, and then you go for lunch, and you could work anywhere in the building. They have a workout gym. The campus is like where I used to work in Illinois.
Wow.
As a part-time engineer. So
Wow.
I'm changing the subject, but so again, we're talking with Steve Serrato. This is KFUY 107.7 FM global. And if you're hearing this and you're not in the Manatee Springs area, go on any search engine, whether it be Google or Internet Explorer, any of those. You hit KFUI space the word global, and it'll be at the top of the search bar. And there's been thousands of people that have used that as a search, and that's why it's on the top of any browser.
Steve Cerruto just died.
Boom, man. Okay.
Cause of death was the interview.
Oh no, no! We need you. You just wrote a song. Oh yeah, coming up. Hopefully in a week. Steve wrote a 6 minute and 53-second song. Very interesting. He does like narrations and then does some singing and just okay. The style is a lot like Steely Dan. Very complicated. And now, if people thought that quantum computers was complicated, I think of Steely Dan, and then Steve Serrato's writings and his compositions are very similar to Steely Dan. It's unbelievable. And that's why if I come to Steve's house and he's recording in progress, I don't bother him. And I just figure I'll call him later. Or if I call and you don't answer, that means you're recording.
He just piles the bodies up in the back. We know.
Yeah. You stack them, we slap them.
That's it.
You stack them, we slap them. Jeez. Oh yeah, there's the heat. But yeah, by golly.
Now, somebody can listen to this.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna upload it.
Oh my God.
Why not? Okay, so a lot of people know who Steve is because sometimes I'll be at the loft or whatever, and I'll say, "Hey, do you know Steve, the short guy, the guitar player?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." Michael Galvin knows who you are. I mean, different. Michael Reese. Yeah, Michael Reese. I mean.
Does he know Adam? He knows.
Well, he knows you.
He knows who I am.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But
great
people
player,
talk about
Michael
him
Reese.
and then stuff like that.
Go listen to Michael Reese any chance you get.
So we got about 24 minutes. I mean, hey, this is not bad. Impromptu.
Wow.
But people love the interviews. They like to hear. I have one of Linda Ronstadt, but I also have one of Joe Johnson that got off of KRCC that I uploaded. And that was one way for people to get to know Joe Johnson. He had no parents, and there he was, surviving. And he became the person he is. I mean, he is like the guy, oh God, the musicians look up to him because he did the tour thing. He did it in a very precision way. He went on tour, and so the young musicians look up to him. So the COVID thing is really hard. But he
paid dues. He
did stuff on the computer, and he actually had a bigger audience. He did like an online show, and he had more people. He had almost, I want to say, 25 to 30,000 people that tuned in. Wow. He said that was the biggest audience he ever had on a Facebook music show from his living room, being piped through Facebook, that people tuned in. Isn't that something?
That's impressive.
And then he had a tip jar, and what do you know? he didn't think he thought maybe one or two or three people would click on, and I watched about a half hour of it, but then it was the next day. He thanked everyone. He said he had the biggest audience he ever had.
Wow. That's encouraging. That
Yeah.
gives me hope. That gives me a lot of
So
hope.
yeah, it gives everybody hopes. So what we try to do is we all. It's not like anybody's better than each other. It's we're different than each other. A different style.
There you go.
And I'll be listening to a band, and there'll be other musicians that will hear this other band or hear this other musician because they like the style.
That's it. That's the key. I think Ray just gave us the key to the whole thing. It's like we're listening to each other and
Yeah.
appreciating each other and not necessarily making comparisons. We're celebrating the uniqueness, the individuality of our styles, and
Yeah.
that's what makes us great. And it takes some heart to do that. And it's about heart. It's about it's like, hey, if we don't have a heart, we have nothing. And if you don't have a heart, you're probably not going to
Well, I
have
have a
good music.
question. I just thought of this. Do you know how to catch a unique rabbit?
I'm not even going to try. Cheeto does, though.
Okay. Unique up on it.
Unique.
And it's
Now there's wisdom.
yeah, this is a good clean joke.
There's wisdom.
Okay, how do you catch a tame one?
I don't know.
Tame way.
Tame one.
So I could tell that.
Makes
to-
sense. It
yeah.
makes a lot of sense, really.
Yeah,
Very
I could tell that to a
philosophical.
kid,
Yeah.
Just,
Well, Cheeto appreciates that.
oh yeah.
So
she's like,
Cheeto
oh.
is now a celebrity.
She's
being
laughing
video-
inside.
She's
Oh.
videoed. She dug up a couch in the process, destroyed a couch, swallowed a ball.